My name is Ben. I'm a wedding filmmaker based in New Zealand with well over a decade of experience, and today I'm going to be breaking down my entire editing process for how I create a wedding film. Editing has always been my favorite part of filmmaking. It is this crazy weird process where you can transform raw footage into something that will make people cry or laugh or get transported back in time. In this video, I will be covering every stage of the process, from importing and cataloging footage, finding our story beats, choosing music, layering B-roll, sound design, sound editing, color grading, the whole 9 yards. This is how I do it. This is what works for me. Hopefully, somewhere along the process, you can pick up something that works for you, that can elevate your filmmaking and editing process as well. I edit in Final Cut Pro, and throughout this video, I will be offering some software-specific keyboard shortcuts and other Final Cut Pro specific tips, but my philosophy for this tutorial is to keep it as much as I can software agnostic. It's more about the thought behind the process, and I talk through why I'm doing things so that hopefully no matter what software you're using, the lion's share of what I have to share in this video will be applicable to you in your process. Now, it's going to be a long one, so grab a snack and a drink and a notepad and settle in. Before we do get started, if you truly want to take your editing to the next level, this video, as long as it is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm hosting a 3-week online workshop called Advanced Editing, featuring some of the best wedding filmmakers in the industry. It's in January 2025, so if you're watching this video before then there will be a link down below for you to check it out. And if you stick around to the end of this video, there will be a discount code for advanced editing if you do want to come and join us. All right, let's dive into the video. And to start us off, what I'm going to do is show you the finished wedding film so that you know what our destination is going to be throughout this process. For context, this was a very, very, very wet wedding. And I actually think that makes it a perfect candidate for this tutorial because it puts the whole process into hard mode. The whole wedding basically took place in one big tent. There was very limited aesthetic detail shots, limited bridal party footage, no drone footage whatsoever. We'll be needing to go back to the fundamentals of storytelling for this project, which I think is perfect for this tutorial because things don't always go to plan at a wedding. And as an editor, you need to be able to pivot and adapt in order to still tell a beautiful story. All right, let's watch the film, and then we'll go back in time to the start of this whole process and start setting up our project for success.
I would say we're really opposite, and that's why we work good together.
I like to be the quiet one and she can do all the talking.
He is pretty chill and kick back and relax, and I'm like stressing about everything.
It is so range.
I feel sick. I think I'm nervous, maybe. How do I look? Does my back look fat? Do I need to sit like this? I don't think I've slept all night.
Just living life. Just living life, really. Yeah.
Izzy, she's a bit of a dag. She's never a dull moment when Izzy's around, so a lot of laughter.
Keaton is a lot like his dad, always known what he wanted, keen to leave home, get and do his own thing, always seemed to be in a hurry, and he's always boosting around.
Izzy, you're the perfect one for Keaton. The one who's always makes him showers, brushes teeth, checks his diabetes, and most importantly, keeps him in line. I truly think you're made for Keaton, Izzy.
You can tell that they're besotted with each other. They love each other so much. We are both, Beck and I, proud of what you guys have achieved in your time together. You guys have worked so hard to make today such a special occasion. Pity the rain, but Beck and I got married. It was a day like this, and 30 years down the track, we're still going hard.
I think I thought he was the one very early on.
It all started back in 2018. Izzy was doing another rugby season as the Hautaupu boys physio and was on the way to Auckland with the team. It's a moment that Izzy has completely crystal clear in her mind forever.
I was just looking around, scoping out who the new players are, and I looked over and I seen This boy who was wearing his ripped jean shorts.
He was wearing glasses, he had ripped denim shorts, the laces of his Vans were undone.
And I remember looking over and being like, oh, who is that?
And he was doing a little side-eye thing that he does when he knows someone is looking at him, but he pretends he doesn't.
Still to this day, I don't believe him that he didn't see me, but anyway, he thinks he didn't see me. And at that point in time, I messaged one of my friends and I was like, I have met my future boyfriend. No, literally I did.
I feel so
One of the most remarkable moments in life is when you recognise your person. Your person who makes the world a more beautiful and all-round better place. Your person with whom you share a bond so special that it goes beyond a standard relationship and you can't imagine spending another day of your life without them. No ceremony in itself can create a marriage. Only the two in it can do that through love and patience, dedication and perseverance, and supporting and believing in each other. And Izzy and Keaton, you fell in love by chance, but you're here today because you're making that choice. You are choosing each other.
You coming into my life has been the best thing that has happened to me, without a doubt. Every moment that has happened in our life, big or small, up or down, is a reason why I love you so much. I promise to listen to your expertise when I'm injured.
Good. Please remember that.
I promise to love you more than Rocco. I promise to not say I don't know as much as I do. I love you now and always.
I know we gotta be honest with who we are, but if I'm being honest, I don't know where to start.
Remember this moment. I can now announce you as husband and wife. Keaton, you may now kiss your bride.
Sometimes we gotta dance on the fault lines, moving our feet like it's alright. Give it another try. Hold tight, we're pushing with both at the right time. Let it all fade in the moonlight. Baby, just you and I.
Yes, I'm mum of 5 boys, and now we have a special girl. We love having you in our family, Izzy. You look so beautiful. And Keaton, I know I'm biased, but you're very handsome. Izzy and I, we have a great friendship, and I love that, Izzy. And we have a bit in common because we've got the same sort of dog, and now we've got the same sort of husband. So I reckon that makes us pretty lucky, Izzy. And same with you, Keaton, having 2 of us.
So Keats, you're a lucky man having found Izzy, or maybe Izzy finding you. You've always struck me as a caring person and a very good listener, which is a great strength to have.
Izzy, I've always looked up to you. You've been my role model since day dot. Truly the best one. I remember when we were little girls, lying in our bedrooms at night, talking about what it'd be like to be married. Something that just felt like a lifetime away. And look where we are.
Keats, thank you for loving our girl unconditionally and making her so happy. We couldn't wish for anything more in a husband. We do apologise for her constantly scanning your arm to check your blood sugars. Who knows how you've survived this long without her? Ayers.
You're the person I want to come home to at the end of the day, and the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. I cannot wait to start the next chapter of our lives together as husband and wife.
On the cheek.
Cheek treatment.
Keaton, how did you find someone
that loves you as much as me, because that's a lot of love. And I thought that that was just a mum dream of mine, and probably every parent's dream, that your children will find someone that cares about them, loves them and treats them, worries about them just like you do. And Izzy, you do all of that. I know you do because I see it.
Today we gather to celebrate not just the union between two beautiful people, but the love that has blossomed between them. As your brother, watching you grow into the man you are today has been a huge privilege. You've found someone as incredible as Izzy who compliments you in every way. And it's clear that you make each other very happy. Izzy, thank you for bringing out the best in my brother, and we are so glad to have you as part of our family.
Oh my god, it's fun.
Okay, if you know me, you know I'm probably sitting here crying. I've actually done really good this morning. I've only had a couple of cries, and I can't wait to see you when I walk down the aisle with Dad, and I really hope you don't cry because that will make me cry. I'm just really looking forward to seeing you, seeing the boys, seeing all of our friends and family that have come, and just being with you. And also like our kiss at the end of the aisle. I can't wait to kiss you. Yeah, I love you, Keats, and I can't wait for what the future holds for us. Yeah.
All right, so I start things off by opening up Final Cut, and to start off, we're going to make a new library in Final Cut. Navigate to our folder. I always like to have all my folders nicely organized so I can find all my footage. And I just name my project with my couple's name. Here we go. So we've made our project. We're going to go into here, File, Import, Media, navigate to our folder, and just select all the files. I make sure I have leave files in place ticked, and I don't want to create any proxies or anything. I'm going to import the footage. All right, first thing I'm going to do before I get really stuck in is start to organize all my footage. So in Final Cut, I use keyword collections. In Premiere, you might use bins and stuff, but basically it's important to start organizing all your footage before you get stuck in. So I'm going to go up here to show my keywords, and I'm going to create a new keyword selection, ACAM. I'm going to call those all ACAM. My B cam over here, B cam, enter, amazing. And then I've got my audio here and here. Great. Now we go through and we start to organize these clips from the parts of the day. I'll start by grabbing some of these interviews I did this in the morning, a keyword collection called interview, bride as well. So we did bride, dad and mum, shut those into interview. And now it's just about organizing for parts of the day. Here we are. This is all the groom prep. here, which is on Mac. I've got Control 5 for that. These are all keyword collections that I've made myself. So I've pre-done these for parts of the day to help organize things. So we've got groom prep. Here is bride prep. Everything right up until about here we're going to call pre-ceremony. Control 9 for that. Then I've got from bride getting out of the car through till about here. Here we go. Then walking down the aisle. That's all the ceremony. Cool. I also like to do the same for the audio recordings. So I've got audio recordings for, I would assume this is the ceremony. Yep, that is the ceremony. We'll grab that. That is also ceremony, but that's just a backup recording. Cool. So speeches there and speeches. I've also got my backup recorder for speeches here, but I'm going to leave it out for now because I'm really happy with the main recording for the speeches. This will be a higher quality, and so I don't need to add extra mess to all the multicams by adding in my backup audio recorder. I've checked my main recording, it's good, so we're going to leave it at that. Cool, so I've now got the whole day organized. Yeah, let me go full screen on that. I've now got the whole day organized in my keyword collections. All done by camera type, and then parts of the day. I've also got those interviews I did in the morning. So this is a really good place now to start to methodically go through all these interviews, the ceremony and the speeches, and we're going to start to look for our story selects. So yeah, this is a really important process to start to find kind of the structure of your film and figure out the pieces that you want to, the puzzle pieces that you want to use to pull this story together. So I'm going to start with, I think, these interviews, start to just basically watch back through them. And what I like to do is have a notes, like an Apple Notes open on my other screen. And as I'm going through, I'll write little notes to start to just kind of like organize the story pieces. Again, all about organization. So I'll start to organize all these story pieces. And when I can see them there in written form and little like keywords of like, Keaton said that this about Izzy, etc., etc. I can then visually start to arrange them in the order that I want to. So I'll go to start to break all this down, and we'll come back when we're all finished. Also, as I go through and start to find story selects, I like to use the favoriting function in Final Cut. Some people like to just like pull selects down onto a timeline. Everyone's got their own preference of how they like to sort of like organize their selects. I personally just like to use the favoriting function. Again, it kind of just like puts it in Final Cut's organizational structure, and it means you can just find things nice and easy. So I'll go ahead and favorite story selects as I find them. Also with Final Cut, I like to use the keyboard for editing as much as I possibly can. So for this section now, you're going to see me basically using the keyboard ideally exclusively. It just keeps things nice and fast, and you don't have to keep moving your mouse around all the time. Yeah, I really like this process. Now there's a story thread in this film that I already know I'm going to want to sort of dive in on, which is the idea that Izzy is super talkative and Keaton is very much not. So if there's any moments throughout like interviews or little pieces where I can find that Keaton's doing particularly like short answers or is particularly kind of obviously quite quiet, I'm also going to pull those out so that when we're hearing from Izzy or other family members about how they're kind of like chalk and cheese that way, I can pull up clips of Keaton obviously being a little more quiet to kind of like showcase that. So I'll be pulling out those as well as I go. Right. We're finding some goods. As you may have seen in some of the footage so far, this was a very, very, very wet wedding. So this edit's going to be on hard mode. Basically, we're going to be leaning much more on story, on interviews, on dialogue, on moments, rather than kind of visuals, spectacle, beautiful shots and things like that. Just because of the nature of the day, just being super rainy, super wet. Everyone was sort of inside for most of the day. So we're doing this on hard mode, but that's okay. Because if we can make an epic film out of this, you can make an epic film out of any wedding day. So yeah, we're finding some good gold in the interviews, kind of got like their origin story, what makes these two tick and click together. So we're just about done with these, and then we will start breaking down the ceremony and the speeches and go from there. I'm basically looking for two things when it comes to sound bites. I'm either looking for sound bites about the couple, and I'll sometimes get this from interviews where I'll ask, tell me about Izzy, or tell me about Keaton from your perspective. Also in speeches, this is a great place to get these sorts of sound bites. I have a resource I send out to all my couples that helps them and their bridal party and their family write great speeches, and in that I advise them on how to sort of tell stories about these people. The other type of soundbite I'm looking for is soundbites to the couple, like directed directly to them. This is often in the form of vows, so obviously the couple speaking directly to each other. This is also in the sort of more heartfelt part of the speeches, when the person doing their speech turns to the couple and directly addresses them. I also sometimes get this in interviews. Right at the end, if it's feeling right, I'll basically leave the room and tell them to basically talk directly to the camera as if it's their significant other, and give them a little private message. So these are the two types of sound bites I look for when I'm culling for my story pieces. Sound bites about the couple and sound bites to the couple. Alright, so before I start doing my ceremony selects, I need to make my multicam of my ceremony, so I'm just doing that now. Selecting all my angles, a new multicam clip. I call it ceremony multicam. I'll use audio for synchronization. We'll see how this goes. There's a lot of rain noise, so it may not do a good job syncing up the audio, especially with some of those tripod cams. So we may have to do some manual syncing, but we'll see how we go. I always like to use a visual point on the waveform to try and sync up manually. So we've got these little bumps here. We'll just shift that along, and they'll look like they're all lining up pretty well. Be able to adjust that in a second if needed. Alright, and then we've got this, so here we go. There's that please be seated bit of the waveform that you can see here. Shift that over, and then these are all now nice and lined up. Do this with this other clip here. Alright, so it's 11:45. Before I break for lunch, I want to break down these speeches, do my speech selects. How I do speech selects nice and quick is I basically play it back at double speed. So in Final Cut you can hit L twice and it'll play back at double speed. And at double speed you can still hear what people are saying. So that's what I usually do to play back long things like ceremony and speeches while I'm looking for audio selects. And it just means you can blast through nice and quick. Alright, everything is culled. I've gone through all of our interviews, ceremony, and speeches. I've pulled out all of the story selects I want to use, and so now I can simply show all favorites, and I can pop these in our timeline and we can see how much we're working with. Got 22 minutes of raw story selects. It's a lot. So it's important to know now for my process. What I usually do is when I book a couple, I often book them in at a 5-minute film package as standard, and I communicate to them at the time of booking that, like, whether they go with either a 5-minute or a 10-minute film package, I still film the same amount on the day regardless, so they can, you know, upgrade to a 10-minute package if they want to. It's at this point in the process, once I've done my story selects and I look at how much kind of like material I've got to work with, just to triple check. I always have enough to make a 10-minute film, but it's at this point when I clearly have loads of gold to work with, I will email the couple and let them know that there's loads of awesome stuff and that we could easily make an amazing 10-minute film. Do they want to upgrade their package? A lot of the times the couples say yes. Sometimes they say no, they're happy with the 5-minute. But I always do that now so that when I start to refine down these story selects and put them in the order that I want them in, I know if I'm working towards a 5-minute story or a 10-minute story. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to fire off that email, and then I'm going to go have some lunch, and we will check back in once I've heard back from the couple and we know what length of film we're making, and we can continue this process. While I wait to hear back from the couple, what I will often do is jump straight into music bed and start the process of looking for music. Now that we know the length of our film, I can start to arrange the story selects. I'm writing notes while I do this, trying to group sound bites into similar emotional tones or plot themes. I also try to make sure I'm keeping the edit balanced between both sides of the family, not staying on one side or hearing about one person for too long. All right, this is what we've got so far. So I wanted a little sequence to like highlight the kind of chalk and cheese nature of the fact that Izzy's super talkative. She's also quite, like, in her words, like stressed and thinking about everything. And Keaton is opposite, like quite reserved, quite introverted, quite laid back. And so I wanted a little sequence to try and sort of highlight that.
I think I thought he was the one very early on. I would say we're really opposite, and that's why we work good together.
I can do the quiet one and she can do the talking.
He is pretty chill and kicks back and relaxed, and I'm like stressing about everything. How do I look? Does my back look fat? I feel sick. Do I need to sit like this? I don't think I've slept all night. I think I'm nervous, maybe.
Just living life. Just living life, really. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm not 100% on it. I still might want to switch some things around. So we'll see. We'll see how we go with this sequence. I feel like the bones of it are cute, but maybe it's not quite in the right order. It's important to not get married, excuse the pun, to your ideas here. Let ideas come, try them out, but then be willing to be brutal and undo work if it's not feeling right. I often give myself some time to come to this conclusion, so I'll cut a story beat and then move on to something else and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. So, yeah, heard a bit from each of the couple about themselves, and now we're hearing from the parents about them. And it's probably from here I want to start going into the origin story, because in the ceremony, the celebrant sort of talks about how they met and all that kind of stuff. And I've got some good sound bites from the couple as well about their whole origin story, how they met, stuff. So I think that's where I want to go next, where we start on this sort of like quite light-hearted, funny sort of energy of their kind of chalk and cheese nature. Then we just start to hear a bit about them from their parents. I might start hunting through the bridal party speeches, see if I can get any other kind of like sound bites just sort of describing the couple to throw in here. And then we'll go into the origin story. And then from there, probably into the vows. So, but we'll see how we go. So one thing I always look for in story selects is transitions, because we build these little kind of vignettes where it was sort of like collecting and combining various sound bites, whether it's from interviews, vows, speeches, etc., to kind of like tell a story. And we get a few of those throughout the film. And what I always try and look for is transitions between the two, because what you really don't want to have is the kind of bad storytelling of this happened, then this happened, and then this happened, and then, where nothing kind of relates to the thing before it and the thing after it. So as I'm going through these sound bites, I'm looking for ways that I can transition naturally between one sort of vignette to the next. And so I've found this section from Keaton's dad's speech where he's talking about the weather, because it absolutely bucketed down at this wedding, to the point where the day almost kind of became about that. So what I want to try and do is use a part of his speech where he talks about like how great they are together, as we've heard from each of them about like how they're different, but how they kind of like come together and combine as a couple. I then want to use his speech talking about how great they are, then cut to him talking about the fact that it's a shame about the weather, but he and his wife got married on a day just like this, and they're still going strong 30 years later. And from there, we can then go into the origin story. So I think that's going to be a really good transition point to kind of bridge this first vignette we've kind of built, and then to go into the origin story. I think that's going to be our transition point. So here's what I'm thinking. I love this soundbite.
I think I thought he was the one very early on. I would say we're...
But it's not fitting with this little vignette I've built in terms of how they're different. So what I'm thinking is I will take that, I think I knew he was the one very early on, soundbite, and use that as part of the transition to talk about the origin story. That kind of makes sense. Like we hear from Dad about the rain and about how like his Keaton's parents' wedding was quite similar with the rain and stuff. And then we can hear from Izzy about how she was, certain from very early on. And then we can hear about the early days. So that's what I'm thinking. And it kind of takes this kind of experimentation and like listening to the music too, because it was only when I started listening to music that I was like, oh, those two vibes are not working side by side. I can't like hero that soundbite the way I want to and then transition into this kind of more funny, lighthearted vignette I've made. So yeah, it was only after listening to music that I'm like, okay, I need to take that soundbite and put it somewhere else. And these are the sorts of things you find when you start playing around with music. And it's why I like to bring a kind of big selection of music into the project to start playing around with it. You can also, like sometimes I do just have music bed open and start playing in the browser while I'm also playing the sound bites back in Final Cut. But sometimes it's also nice just to have it natively inside the platform as well, and you can just pull things down and try it out and stuff. So both ways work. All right, I found my song for after my first little vignette. I think I want to do something a little bit different for, especially this kind of like jump cut thing I've got going on with.
I feel sick. I think I'm nervous, maybe. How do I look? Does my back look fat?
Like, I want to really kind of ramp up the comedy, come in with quite a light-hearted, fun sort of energy. So I need to find a bit more sort of playful music for this. And I feel like from there I can almost like smash cut straight into like the real first song, because we've got like this like 20-second sequence that we'll start with, and I might even like chop and change the music a fair bit to kind of really highlight. So I might like have this kind of like, I don't know, quite like high energy music for that jump cut with Izzy kind of stressing, and then we might sort of smash cut to like birds chirping and quiet contemplative music for Keaton, just kind of in his own little world, to really like ramp up that contrast. So yeah, I think I'll try and find some music to ramp up the contrast for this first 20 seconds, and from there as a kind of just little as its own little section, and then we'll jump straight into the proper first song from there. I think that's how it's going to work best. We love to see it. So just out of pure chance, the song I think I'm going to use to like start off the film with, just for this little 20-second vignette, happens to be in the exact same key as the song I'm then going to transition to for the actual kind of first song of the film. Completely dumb luck. Complete dumb luck. But we take it. We take those.
Bruh.
I did not mean to do that. The reason I like this first song for this first little vignette is because the song has contrast in it. It's got that, you know, quiet little plucky guitar bit, and then a really big heavy rock bit in it too. So I can sort of literally pull out those sections of the song, smash them right next to each other, and really highlight that contrast, which is exactly what I wanted for this first section. So we're going to grab that song, chuck it in our songs folder, bring it into Final Cut, and from there we can start to build this first section of the film. I always assign audio roles in Final Cut because it makes the timeline a lot cleaner. All right. So I always like to give a bit of headroom at the start of an edit. I don't really like to come straight in hot with with dialogue. You can do that in social edits, but I feel like for the actual wedding film, if you think about the user experience, they're sitting down either as a couple or with friends and family around them, and going to hit play on the TV, say. You don't want there to be just like immediately like words getting thrown at them. Like, people need some time to just like settle in, quieten down, get ready to watch something. So I always like to have a little bit of lead in before we start slamming words in. Social edits are different. Social edits, I always have words the second it starts. But wedding films, we want some headroom. This is when you bring the music in. This is when you refine the cadence of their speech as well, by chopping out the little dead spaces and stuff. When I'm just cutting down the story selects, I do a bit of culling. Like, if there's big dead spaces, I'll cut them out. But it's when I'm hearing the music and them speaking over top of the music, that's when I really refine the cadence of what they're saying to make it feel natural alongside the music. All right, so from here, I want to start to build up this track, because I want to bring in this more heavy rock section. Here we go, that's a good bam, 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 bam. You'll see me nodding my head here. I'm just manually counting to the beat to see where I want to cut the song. It's important to never cut anything to the beat by ear like this if you're using a Bluetooth headset, as there is a slight delay when transmitting audio over Bluetooth. Bum, 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 bum. We're just going to line up these waveforms to make sure we're sounding good, and then we'll see how this sounds.
How do I look? Does my back look fat? Do I need to sit like this? I don't think I sleep all night.
Bum, 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 bum. And then from here, first hit of this. Bah. Bum, 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 bum. It's sounding pretty good. What I might do is dive into my multiply sound film score pack and pull out some transitional sounds to really blend those tracks together. But for now, I might leave that there. We're definitely still in the kind of like roughing in stage of the edit, so I don't want to like get bogged down fussing around with exact transitions just yet. But overall, I'm happy. Let's play this back and see how we're feeling.
I would say we're really opposite, and that's why we work good together.
I like to be the quiet one and she can do all the talking.
He is pretty chill and kick back and relaxed, and I'm like stressing about everything. I feel sick. I think I'm nervous, maybe. How do I look? Does my back look fat? Do I need to sit like this? I don't think I've slept all night.
Just living life. Just living life, really. Yeah.
Feeling pretty happy about that. So what I might do now is tidy up these song edits. So what I like to do in Final Cut is so that later down the line, when I'm fine-tuning adjustments, the tracks don't get like, out of sync. What I like to do is create kind of standalone magnetic timelines underneath the primary timeline. That way, if I'm then adjusting and moving around the primary timeline, I'm not taking all these song edits out of sync. So I'll show you how I do that now. So what I do is take this first track and I push Control S. It brings up kind of expands the audio. And from here I can pull this across. And that way the clips then sit side by side, but this audio is still transitioning underneath. And I do the same for this guy. Bring this across. So everything's all in one nice. Once we tidy up that, there we go. So now everything's in nice one tidy line. What you can do then, grab all of these, Command G, and they're in their own individual magnetic timeline. You can then attach this anywhere you want on the timeline, and it's not going to get out of sync. So yeah, I like to stay nice and organized throughout this whole process, and it keeps the edit quite modular, because as I build out the rest of this film, if I decide actually this little vignette we've built would be better later on in the film, I can literally pick up this whole section and take it across without the risk of things getting sort of out of sync. Because this music mix we've kind of cut together is now its own kind of unified thing, without having to do something kind of more permanent, like turning it into a compound clip. Like if I say wanted to or needed to trim down this section, like we've got like 3 or 4 little jump cuts of Izzy saying how kind of stressed, like showing how stressed she is. if we needed to chop that down from 4 to 3 and adjust the music accordingly, I can do that very easily with this kind of setup, rather than if I turned this whole music mix into a compound clip. It would be very difficult to then retime that if that was the case. So that's why I use it this way. Yeah, nothing else more to be said with that really. Let's carry on with the rest of the edit. So, just realized I've got a few counts of music after this little soundbite of him talking about how Izzy's always laughing. We're going to bring in a shot of Izzy laughing to fill that gap. So I could find that now, but I think I might just stick in the flow of cutting these sound bites and just know that I've got a Izzy laugh to go and find and put in this little perfect little gap here before the music dips back down and we go into Mum's sound bite. So there's a break in this music that I really don't like. So I'm going to switch things around and I'm going to basically end this song with this dad's soundbite. And basically end this section here using the end of the song because it bleeds off quite nicely. We're going to then transition with that lovely Izzy soundbite we had at the start that we've now moved. Yeah, so we're going to basically finish Dad's speech, soundbite, finish the song. I might even just have no music, Izzy's soundbite, and then next song comes through, and we roll into the origin story. That's what I'm thinking. All right, I feel like that's in a pretty good place. First minute and a half of the film done. We get our little fun little vignette of Izzy and Keaton. We then transition to the kind of the first main section of the film. We hear about them from their friends and family, and now we're going to transition into the origin story, which is going to be centered around the ceremony. So that's next. All right, we're back another day, and I've just got back from dropping off my kid at kindy, and I've got until 2 p.m. and by that time I want to have the skeleton of my film down, which for me means basically the audio version of the film kind of locked in. So I want to have my full 10-minute film with all the sound bites synced up to the music, the whole thing, so you can shut your eyes and basically hear the finished, all but finished film. We've got the first minute and a half made so far. I know what I'm doing next. I'm going into the origin story, and I want to bring the energy, I guess, down a little bit now. We've had a kind of like fun, bubbly vibe for this first minute and a half. We're then going to bring it down, ramp up that emotion. First thing I'm probably going to do is look for this music, because that's going to help me kind of like, it's going to help me keep the tone of how I'm building the origin story, basically. So I want to kind of like, I guess, listen to this track I used at the start a few times, pick a song that I feel is going to be a really good energy transition. We've got the nice soundbite from Izzy as that transition point. So I really want to kind of start by getting the right song picked. So from then, as I'm picking the sound bites for this origin story, they're all kind of feeling like they're in the right sort of energy and stuff from there. So we'll do that. All right, so what I've just done here is that song we finished on ends quite abruptly. So I've gone into my film score pack for Multiply Sound. If you don't use that, get on it. It's amazing. And I've found some sort of sound stems in the same key, and I've used that to kind of just like extend out the end of the song, make it sort of bleed out a bit more. You could do things like add reverb, but I love adding just little bits from the film score pack, which is just super easy and just lets you augment songs to make them do what you sort of want. So I've sort of added a bit of a bleed out to that song. We then go into Izzy's soundbite, and then from there I want to start with the instrumental of this next song. I think I do want to use some of the lyrics as well, but to start off, that first lyric was a bit distracting, so I want to just like start with the instrumental, and then we can weave in the lyrics as we go. So what I'm doing here is just kind of, it was all feeling a bit fast in terms of the transition. So I'm adding this little transitional element of the rain, just bring the energy right down, and I'll see if I can then go from that to Izzy's soundbite, and then into the origin story. This is a trick I learned from my friend Zach from Flat Rock Films in a recent interview I did with him. It's to get the celebrant script ahead of the wedding. This can help influence the interview questions you ask in the morning, because often the celebrant includes a bit of the couple's origin story in their ceremony script. And now in the editing room, I'm able to cut back and forward between the celebrant talking at the ceremony and the couple speaking during their interview, making for a really beautiful rendition of their origin story as a couple. Okay, I may have found another transition point. So the music track I have picked out for this particular section just happens to be bleeding off. Now I could, if I wanted to, go and pick an early part of the song and keep looping it and keep going. But I was sort of running out of bits of Keaton's vows to use, and we haven't really heard much from him. He doesn't say a lot, so I want to use as much of his words as I possibly can. And the last part of his vows start to get a little sort of cutesy and jokey. And so what I might do is use that as a transition point to go to a different song and change the energy up again. Because we started fun, and then we, pulled the energy right down, ramped up the sort of emotional side. And I think we've probably, we've done that for about 2 minutes now. So actually, I think now's a great time to change the energy again. We can use his vows and how he's sort of starting to make it a bit more cutesy and a bit more jokey, and use that to change the energy. So that means we jump back into music bed and find another track, probably in the same key as this. So I'll check what key this Awake Again song is. We'll find a song in the same key, but much different energy, much more upbeat. And we'll start to bring the energy back up again. And we'll see where the film takes us from here. So this is one of the rare instances where music bed doesn't have the key listed. So I'm going to have to go purely on feel, purely on my own ears. I'm not a musically trained person. I don't know what keys songs are in just naturally. So it's all going to come down to just trial and error, seeing what fits together and go from there. So a little bit of a slower process, but we can still manage it. So I think I'll start by going through, because we downloaded all those songs at the start of the process. So I'll go through what we've picked out for them from that list. If nothing's quite fitting, I'll jump back into music bed and go on the hunt there. But I'll start with our pre-selected songs and see if anything works.
Sometimes we gotta dance on the fault lines, moving our feet like it's alright. Give it another try.
Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Pretty happy about that. So we've managed to ramp the energy back up again, and I think from here we're halfway in the edit. We're at the sort of 5-minute mark. So now I want to start diving into the speeches. We've kind of done the ceremony. There might be a couple of moments where I sort of pull out little bits of vows or something that we cut back to, but for the most part we've sort of hit the ceremony note, and so now I've got all these kind of speeches here that I can dive in on, get all those lovely sound bites. What are we at now? 11 a.m. So I have 3 hours until I have to pick up my kid, and you need to eat lunch as well. So 3 hours to edit 5 minutes of film. I may not get it done. I may be working this evening. We'll see. This is something I do quite a lot, where as I'm going through and chopping up speeches and vows and stuff to a song, once I've cut out all the breaks and the ums and trimmed down the soundbite to what I want it, if when it finishes there's sort of just like the music is finishing sort of a count of 8, I'll often just bring the music up and then back down just for literally like a second. It just gives a really nice little breath in between sound bites. So like we hear someone's sound bite, the music will literally just go woo, woo, to then lead into the next speaker. You'd think it might be just a bit sort of distracting having music go up and down like that, but actually it just gives a really nice little break in between the sound bites. As much as I like this soundbite, we've already kind of done the origin story, so I think I'm going to cut this whole section out and just go into the bridesmaids addressing the groom, because it's feeling a little disjointed going back to the origin story now. Even though the soundbite is nice, I think looking big picture, it's not quite what we need right now. So, had a little bit of tweaking to do with the song there at the end, but it's feeling good. So, gonna jump back into music bed, find our last song. I'm gonna find something in the same key as this Fault Lines track, so we can get a really nice seamless transition from Fault Lines into the final song. I don't have a really high energy section for this film. I'm gonna basically find this next song because I know I want an emotional section. Like I know I need that. I've got some really good sound bites that I want to like have a big emotional hit. So I know I need that. But what I think I'm about to do is find that song, rough in that section, and then watch back the film and kind of picture in my mind if there's sections that I need to really ramp up that kind of big energy, that excitement energy. Because it might be fine. It might be absolutely fine, but I think my gut's telling me we might be missing it. We'll see. Okay, I think we have a solution. So I found a track that I love the intro. It's exactly the vibe I wanted for these sound bites. Like, perfect. But then it was weird. Violin came in and it ended all weird. So I didn't like how it finished. And so what I did is I went into music bed and searched for the, obviously, same key, A flat major, but then also the same BPM, 70 beats per minute. I'm going to put those two qualifiers as a search in music bed, so that I can basically find a second track and create my own remix by starting with one song and finishing with another and having them bleed, maybe even back and forward a bit, we'll see, but having the same key and the same BPM should mean they should blend perfectly. So I'm really happy. It means we get the beautiful soft cinematic piano vibe, and then we can ramp it up to finish the film on a nice high note as well. So I'm very happy. Okay, we're done with our 10-minute film edit with half an hour to spare before I have to go. Feeling really good. I didn't jump back and forward between the songs as much as I thought I would, but it did exactly what I wanted it to do, which was start off on one energy, transition to another, and give us a nice big kind of celebratory finish. Like, so celebratory, but also still emotional hit, like the perfect vibe. So I'm now going to spend the next, I guess, 20 minutes watching back this edit twice, writing down any notes for ideas I want to change that I can address tomorrow. But basically, the audio edit of the film is in a draft form done. So I'm really, really happy with how this has come together. So yeah, I'll watch this back 2 more times, write some notes, and then call it a day. And so what happens next is we start diving into B-roll. Basically, we've created the audio version of the film. Now we're going to start to piece together the visual version of the film. And through this process, I'll also be refining and tweaking audio transitions, and there might be some sort of expanding and contracting between different moments of the film. If there's like a bit of B-roll that has some in-camera audio that I want to kind of extend that bit out, I might play with some of those timings, but in a broad sense, the audio version of the film is done. And we'll jump into B-roll next. B-roll for me is a pretty straightforward process. I'm basically trying to enhance and hero whatever is going on audibly. I would say most of my actual creative process is in the section you've just watched. I put so much effort into making sure the structure, story, and music of the film are the best they can be, and then the visuals are there to serve and support that. In a nutshell, I'm looking for the B-roll to act as proof of what's being said. If we hear how Izzy is always laughing, I want to see it. If we hear how Keaton is kind, I want to see it. Throughout the whole film, I'm balancing this visual montage that is serving as proof of what's being said about these people with a documentarian approach to recounting the wedding day itself. I think of the phrase, meanwhile back at the ranch. So we're bouncing around in time, seeing footage of the couple from all parts of the day. Meanwhile back at the ranch, Izzy is getting into her dress and getting in the car, and Keaton is waiting for her at the end of the aisle. It's by repeatedly checking in with the timeline of the day that I can anchor all these sound bites onto something solid, and we just repeat that process for the whole film. Romantic montage of the couple, meanwhile back at the ranch. Romantic montage of the couple, meanwhile back at the ranch, continuously reminding the viewer of where they are in the context of the wedding day itself. All right. B-roll is done. So it took about 2 days, and now basically the job for me now is to go through and kind of really, like, with a fine-tooth comb, assess what I've done, because I've kind of like done all the B-roll in like a rough pass, not super rough, but now's the time where I really go through and fine-tune shot selections, just be really like critical about if I'm using the best shots for these particular moments. If there's little transitions I need to tidy up, this is also where I start to tidy up the sound mixing. So like go through and fix audio levels, do a bit of sound design, like start to go through any moments that need augmenting or improving with a little bit of extra bits of sound design. And once we've done all that and it's all looking super tidy, we're going to go into grading. So yeah, we're on the final stretch now. I'm going to start to go through and tidy up, and I'll explain some of the process of what I'm doing as I go through and do that. So here we go. So for this part of the process, basically, whenever I find something I want to change, I will stop right there and fix it. So this is basically, we're going to be going from the start of the film all the way to the end, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. So it's quite a sort of laborious, meticulous part of the process. But this basically, I'm at this point in the process, I'm forcing myself to not just sit back and just let the edit kind of wash over me. I'm now in like sort of minute fine-tuning detail where we've like beforehand we've sort of stepped back and just like any sort of little imperfections I've let just like wash over me, because I actually didn't want to see those. I want to just sort of step back and get the macro picture of like the pacing, the energy, is this sort of the story progressing in the way I want it to. Little bits of audio inconsistencies and sort of not quite the perfect shot and perfect transition I've deliberately ignored up until now, so that I can focus on the bigger picture. Now we're looking for all those inconsistencies, all those little bugbears that we're going to tidy up and fix now. So yeah, this is basically starting from the beginning of the film. We're going to hit play. Every time we find something we want to change, we stop right there and we change it. And we're going to do that for the whole film, start to finish. Also, I'll say it's at this point that I make my audio level monitors nice and big on my screen. So again, if I notice any peaking at all, or any low or high dialogue, this is where I'll be looking out for that. So what I'm doing for these speech volumes is I'm just going through, and what I'd done in the multicam clip, I had on the audio layer, which I'm using my Zoom F3 recording from the Venue's house system. So I'm using my F3 clip, and then on that clip, on that F3 recording, I did a levels adjustment, levels normalization. So like bring all the sort of levels roughly into the same sort of zone, and a voice enhancement, just the native within Final Cut Pro voice enhancement effect at around, I think 30 or 40%. I'm finding the voice enhancements natively in Final Cut really good at the moment. So I did that across all the speeches, but even when you normalize the levels, depending on person to person, there will still be volume adjustments. So what I tend to do for this part of the process is I'll do that kind of global sort of audio bump within the multicam clip on that audio recording, and then in the edit, clip to clip, person to person, I'll figure out exactly how much gain I need to add or retract, to usually add for each particular person. Usually it's around the sort of like 4 to 7 dB range, depending on how loud the person's talking. So what I'll usually do is I'll just like by eye looking at the levels, figure out how much gain to put on each person, and then just copy that across for all their dialogue bits. So what I'm doing here is I'm, for the applause for a speech, if I'm using the crowd applause and stuff, what I'll do is, because often when you hear the applause through the actual microphone, it's quite soft. So what I tend to do is I will duplicate a clip from the speech. I will then strip out the audio just of that, so I've got just the audio. Then I can go through and select a different audio source. So rather than the Zoom F3, I'm going to use just like one of my cameras, and we're just going to bring the dB down on that, and then that should give us a much more natural kind of room tone that we can then kind of bleed in the sound of the applause. Whoa, that's very loud. Bleed in the sound of the applause through that independently of the actual. So let's just see. We don't want it to completely take over, but just a bit more than what we were getting through the mic.
Still going hard.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll bring that in a little bit earlier. A little bit more.
Here's down the track. We're still going hard.
Sweet. And then what I might do is just drop that a touch, drop the music a touch so we don't blow our levels.
Here's down the track. We're still going hard.
We're still just clipping a touch. We can probably just pull the applause down 1 dB.
Here's down the track. We're still going hard.
There we go. So this is probably worth mentioning now. I do a lot of digital zooming and reframing as part of my editing process. And because of that, I often deliver in HD. So shoot everything in 4K, deliver in HD, because I don't want there to be a visible difference between the like uncropped 4K image and then the shots that I then crop in on. If you basically normalize everything as 1080p, the shots that have been cropped in and the shots that haven't been cropped in look exactly the same. So for me, it's a better user experience to have everything the same resolution than to be basically jumping up and down in resolutions, and that's far more jarring for me. So I would rather shoot everything 4K, have the ability to do some cropping and reframing, and then normalize everything to HD. That's just part of my process. That's to do with there's some creative choices. I like to digitally zoom for like emotional impact. I also like the safety of having like my tripod angles a bit wider and then cropping in. That's mostly an economical choice for me. So I'm not, I don't then have to hire second shooters for every single wedding. So yeah, that's what I do. Okay, sound design stuff. So I've gone through and I have done all the audio levels. I've checked over any shots I want to tweak, changed. I've tried some things. Some things didn't work. Some things did. I've gone and reframed all my speech angles and stuff. So that's all done. So yeah, I think I'm going to go through now and check if there's anything I want to like tweak and enhance with some sound design. I don't want to put like too much of a heavy hand on it. I've already done some stuff with like the rain. I don't want to just like slam rain sounds through the whole thing. And I'm actually pretty happy with a lot of the music transitions. I'll see if there's anything I want to kind of augment. I've already done some stuff where I've like added little piano rises and stuff to kind of help with some of the song transitions. So overall, I feel like we're just about there. We're just about ready for grading. What I might do is I might just play the whole film back now with the idea of listening for any moments that just need little extra oomphes, sound design or music wise. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I might chuck my headphones on and just listen to it properly. Also just triple check my my sound mixing on the headphones. And once we play that back and have done any changes, it's on to grading. Last step. I like to keep my color grading process as simple as possible. I have built my grade using two tools from Film Convert, Cinematch and Film Convert Nitrate. I will have the settings for those up on the screen now. I've also turned this look into a LUT. It is the Emerald LUT from my Cinematic LUTs Pack Volume 2. I'll have a link to that down below too. First thing I do is take the conversion LUT off my footage, bringing it back into log. Then I put an adjustment layer on top of the entire timeline. My grade goes onto that adjustment layer, and then I go through the whole timeline clip by clip, adjusting the levels just using the native color wheels with inside Final Cut. You'll see me using a loop deck here. I'm basically just using the loop deck to make the whole process faster, so I can have my right hand on the mouse, my left hand on the loop deck, and I just go through clicking each clip and using the loop deck to adjust the highlights, mids and shadows, keeping an eye on the waveform monitor on the left there and also on the image itself just by eye. And I just go through the whole timeline, and this whole process takes me 1 to 2 hours. And we're done. And that's it. That's my process for creating a wedding film. I hope you all enjoyed. If you got this far, thank you for watching. And if you want more And if you're watching this before January 2025, then please come and join us at Advanced Editing. It's going to be an amazing event. I'll have a link down below. And if you use the promo code SECRET, you'll get $100 off your ticket. If you've got any questions on this whole process, please comment down below and I will do my best to answer as many as I can. And if you're not already following us over on Instagram, I do a bunch of other educational content for wedding filmmakers over there. We've got a podcast, so I'll have links to everything down below. Other than that, thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time.